Hey everyone, welcome to The Explainer. Today we're diving into something absolutely crucial. We're unpacking a text that is dense, philosophical, and honestly just incredibly powerful if you're trying to reclaim your attention in our super noisy world. We're looking at this foundational framework derived from a really specific, carefully worded source, all about how we manage our minds. It's a short text, but man, does it pack a monumental punch. We're going to break the whole thing down visually so you can truly master these concepts right along with me.
So I want you to be totally honest with yourself for a second here. Your alarm goes off, your eyes open. What's the very first thing you do? Well, if you're like most of humanity, your hand just kind of instinctively reaches over, you grab your phone, and boom, you instantly start absorbing the world. You know the drill, doom scrolling through emails and social feeds before you've even had a glass of water. You wake up and immediately you let the world pour its agenda straight into your brain. I want you to hold on to that feeling, because that is exactly what our source material is challenging today.
All right, Section 1, Architect of Focus Building Attention. The very first phrase of our source material zeroes right in on the incredibly intentional choice of the word architect. Notice it doesn't call you the manager of focus or the finder of focus. Nope, it uses a term deeply associated with design, structure, and physical reality. Think about what an architect actually does. They don't just wander onto an empty plot of dirt hoping a skyscraper is just going to magically appear, right? They draft blueprints, they dig foundations, they put up scaffolding. By using this very specific word, the source material is drawing a sharp contrast. It's basically telling us we have to stop being passive observers, or worse, victims, of all this digital noise. Focus isn't just going to happen to you, you have to build it.
So the crucial point we get to is this underlying logic. If you are meant to be the architect of air attention, then focus absolutely has to be something you structurally build from the ground up. It's an active state of construction. You don't lose your focus under the couch cushions, and you certainly aren't going to find it down there either. You have to build the environment where focus can actually exist. It takes sweat equity, it takes planning, and it takes serious intentionality.
Which brings us to Section 2, Creation versus Consumption, the attention battle. Now this right here is the central conflict of the entire text. This is the literal daily battleground where your focus is either built up or torn down every single day.
And this comparison brilliantly illustrates the battle for our attention. On one side, we've got creation. This is proactive. This is you putting something brand new into the world, writing, thinking, planning, building. It aligns perfectly with that architect mindset we just talked about. But then, on the other side, we have consumption. This is reactive. This is you just absorbing what someone else has already built. And look, let's be real. Scrolling through a social media feed at 7 a.m. doesn't exactly count as architectural research, no matter how much we might want to tell ourselves that. The text demands that we pick a side to lead with.
Notice the highly specific syntax the source uses here, because honestly, every single word carries massive weight. We have prioritizing, creation, over, and consumption. Take a look at column 2. The text does not say eliminate consumption. I mean, that would be impossible, right? We have to read, we have to learn, we have to get inspired by other people. Instead, the operative word here is prioritizing, followed very closely by over. This establishes a really strict hierarchy. Consumption is totally allowed to exist in your life, for sure, but it must be strictly subordinated to creation. The building has to come first, the absorbing comes second.
Okay, so how does an architect actually pull this off in reality? Well, that brings us to Section 3. Create before you consume, the golden rule. This is where the text pivots from the purely philosophical into a very specific, actionable framework. Translating all this high-level philosophy into practical application boils down to one singular golden rule for your daily routine. Just one number, one absolute, non-negotiable rule to govern exactly how you structure your waking hours. And here is the direct quote, the literal thesis of the entire text. Create before you consume. I'm going to say it one more time, just so we can really let the profound simplicity of that statement sink in. Create before you consume. It is a monumental command. Notice the absolute rigidity of this sequence. Step 1 is create. Step 2 is consume. The word before is the temporal hinge that this entire philosophy swings on. It essentially acts as a firewall in your day. You are not allowed to move to step 2 until step 1 has been initiated. If you wake up and grab the phone to read the news, you've immediately violated the sequence. You've basically let consumption win the priority battle before you even got out of bed. But also notice what the text is completely silent on. It doesn't tell you what to create. It doesn't say you have to go paint a masterpiece or write the next great novel. Creating could be stretching, writing down 3 simple goals for the day, journaling, or even just preparing a healthy breakfast. And it also doesn't tell you what to consume. The actual content, totally up to you. What it insists upon, though, is that the structural sequence is completely non-negotiable. Sequence is everything. Why? Because the sequence itself is the literal key that unlocks the final result. Which naturally leads us to the ultimate question answered in Section 4. High-frequency mind, the ultimate prize. Like, why go through all this effort? Why fight that incredibly strong urge to check our emails the second we wake up? What's the actual payoff for following this strict sequence according to our source text?
Well, the ultimate prize is the high-frequency mind, and the text explicitly labels this as a secret. So the absolutely crucial point here is that a high-frequency mind, which is this state of elevated cognition, pristine focus, and super low anxiety, isn't just something you're lucky enough to be born with. It's presented as a direct structural consequence of your actions. It's a literal secret unlocked exclusively by following that create before you consume rule. When you create first, you set the brain's frequency to proactive output. But when you consume first, you tune your brain straight to reactive static. So, bringing this entire narrative together for a second, to reclaim your attention, you just have to stop being a passive victim of all this digital noise. You really must step into the role of the architect. The architect knows that to build focus, they have to establish a hierarchy, prioritize creation over consumption. And they implement that hierarchy through a really strict daily sequence. Create before you consume. When those architectural steps are actually followed, the natural result is unlocking the high-frequency mind. It's just an incredibly tight logical progression from mindset to action straight to the ultimate reward.
I want to leave you with this final, vital question, based entirely on the source we've just unpacked today. Tomorrow morning, when that alarm goes off and that phone is sitting right there on your nightstand, practically begging you to consume, what will you build before you browse? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and I highly, highly encourage you to go out and be the architect of your own focus today.